My story is one that I wish I didn't have to tell ever again in my life. What I really want to do is go home and stay there till I die. That's what I want to do every day. There is purpose in life with children. You know what I'm saying? They give us strength. We carry on. They are our dreams, our hopes for the future. They are our lineage. And it's important for each one of us, we have a natural ability to carry on our lives with that. It's wonderful. But God has other plans. And even through tragedy, those plans can be brought to fruition. If you want to hear God laugh, tell him what your plans are. Amen. And I guarantee you, you will hear an echoing laughter because he has other plans. Now, I'll tell you, I don't pull any punches. I'll tell you how it is. I'm not politically correct. Sometimes I offend people because I'm a little harsh, but I have lived a tragic life. And I keep getting up again. And the next day, I just get up and I go because that's God's will for my life. If I had never hurt, I couldn't help the hurting. If I was never alone, I could never talk to the lonely. If we never suffer, we can never understand the suffering. If we're never poor, we will never understand the poor. So there are reasons that God gives us the tragedies and the suffering, but he also gives us an answer. That no matter how bad it is, there's always sunshine after that thunderstorm, always. Now I'll tell you, I've been told we don't have a drug problem in Weatherford. We don't, do we? It's not a problem unless it's your problem. Then it's a problem. Almost 40,000 Mexican citizens have died since 2007. 40,000. How many in here are aware of that? It doesn't make the news. Not much anyway. And they're dying because Americans have an insatiable lust for drugs and drug abuse. We make up 5% of the world population. We use over 52% of its illicit drugs. And I guess they go everywhere but Weatherford because I've been told we don't have a drug problem in Weatherford. I fear to differ. We do have a drug problem in Weatherford. When you're a firefighter on the truck, you see it firsthand. We go inside of people's houses. We roll up to a scene in this house. The yard hasn't been mowed 6 months. There's trash laying everywhere. There's a broken down car in the driveway. I've learned that there's 2 reasons for that. Number 1 is because of mental health, or number 2, and most likely, drug abuse. Sometimes both. Working for Tarrant County Mental Health and Mental Retardation for years taught me one thing, that the 2 go together. They truly do. Some say one causes the other. What came first, chicken or the egg? I've seen schizophrenics that are schizophrenics because of years of drug use. I've seen mental health patients that use the drug to self-medicate. I have found that in Parker County, I can get more help for my horse than I can get for my child on drugs. I'm not beating up the horse industry here. It's a wonderful thing. I guess it provides a lot of jobs. I'm not a cowboy. I don't know. But I can tell you, if you got a horse here, you serve a better chance. That's why it's so important to have something like this. It's extremely important for resources. When I found that my son was a drug addict, I'm a firefighter. My insurance is very limited. Nobody was willing to help us. I tried just about every organization that I could find. Him being a minor, there was hardly anything I could do. There is no such thing as a 28-day recovery.
That's right.
That is one of the biggest BS's known to man, passed on by insurance companies. There is no such thing. Anybody in here that's been an addict, I'm sure would agree with me. It takes at least a year to get away from people, places, and things to start a new life, to start a new attitude. We are a drug culture. And here's what I mean by that. Drugs fall in this. Most people, when I say drugs, most people think of what? Heroin, meth. They never think of aspirin. Alcohol. Drugs start with the aspirin here on this end of the spectrum, and they end with heroin on this end of the spectrum. Everything else falls in that spectrum. Alcohol, psychotropics, over the counter, under the counter, behind the counter, in the alley, you name it, they're all drugs. And what are they for? Most to help us medically, to improve our lives. But they don't stop there. Because as people, we typically think if one is good, two is better. And so, self-governing that good feeling, I'll tell you right now, I love hydrocodone. Love it. It is my happy drug. I don't know why. You're talking to a guy that cannot drink. One little bit of alcohol and I start itching and I start breaking out and I start sweating. I'm allergic to it. In high school, I smoked a joint and didn't like it. So I never did drugs, ever. But medically, I've been given hydrocodone, and it is my happy drug. It makes me happy. We're all susceptible to that drug. Some people can put it down and walk away from it, like me. Some people cannot, like my son. My son came from a very loving, large, giving family. We didn't grow up in the hood. He didn't grow up around these things. But in the 3rd grade, I had a teacher tell me, "Your son will not be still in my class. He's driving me crazy." So we had him assessed, and guess what? He needed to be on Ritalin. Well, being the proper father and thinking I'm doing the right thing, I go down to the nearest doctor who agreed, and the pharmaceutical company was more than happy to supply all the Ritalin that we were going to need for this child. In the 9th grade, he was stressed out for a test one day and he took 2. We know what Ritalin is, right? Speed. Well, 2-speed worked. 3-speed worked better. And when I caught him making his own drugs in his closet, one of the things he told me was, "Dad, when I took those 3 Ritalin that day, I became somebody. There was nothing I couldn't do. I was finally part of the human race." There's one thing that every drug addict has in common. He has a basic loathing for himself. Every single one has a problem liking who they are. Not understanding that C.S. Lewis once wrote, "If we could hear the thoughts that go through mankind, there wouldn't be enough prisons in the world to hold us all." We're all that way. Some people can cope with it better than others. It's a coping mechanism. But it made him feel wonderful. It made him finally feel like he was a part of mankind. He was hooked. There's a huge spiritual part to the addiction process. We're an addictive culture today. Look at us. There are 2 main problems that we will not see in the next year on the candidates' ballots. It will not be in their in their talks, in their referendums, in their speeches, or in their debates. One is drug abuse. We won't see it. The other is debt. Perpetual debt. Everybody in this room is in debt. Almost everybody in this room has a new home, 2 new cars, a garage full of stuff, and doesn't own any of it. the credit card companies and Easy Credit have given it to you. So it gives us, though, the apparent look of affluence. We look affluent. Almost everybody's in debt, but they look good. They're driving new cars, they're living in nice neighborhoods, they're wearing nice clothes, but they're living in a feudal system where King Visa and Lord MasterCard are now the overlords of our kingdom. What this does is it creates a sense of entitlement among the populace in which we don't deal with daily grief. Because when we're suffering from affluenza, we always got something that we can buy to make us feel better. Something we can take to make us feel better. And when we live that way, we do not live up to our archetypical needs. Mother, father, grandma, granddad, the old family structure. And that's why we see the breakdown of the family today. We don't need the family when we have stuff. But stuff doesn't comfort us in the wee hours of the morning when loneliness creeps in. Stuff doesn't make us feel better about ourselves. And stuff doesn't fill the gap that God left there for us to put Him in. And so we turn to things of this world. All the hopes and all the dreams I had for my son to go to military academy, those were my dreams. God had other plans. But they're God's plans. And through this, I have become wiser. I don't really know what I've become. But my point is that every day, if somebody comes to me and says, help me, I have this problem, or Bob, will you come talk to us? I'm not going to stay at my house and ignore the fact that others are suffering the same way I did. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to fight this demon for the rest of my life. And whatever somebody calls me for help, I'll be there to help. As much as I can't stand being around addicts, because it's a personality thing. And every time I deal with one, I see my son all over again. And it wears me smooth out. But you know, this is a situation a lot bigger than me. And I believe in a power in this universe a lot bigger than me. And the needs of others far outweigh any need that I have. Last week I walked into a restaurant. And there was a little gal that came and gave me a big hug. And she said, you don't remember me, do you? And I said, I'm afraid I don't. And she said, you came to talk to us in the jail 2 years ago. And I listened. And after I got out of there, I got cleaned up because I listened to what you had to say. And look at me now. That's why I do this. That's one less child we got to bury. Amen. And that's what this is all about. That's what you are all about. That's what we as a community have to be about. Because guess what? The federal government isn't going to fix this problem. The state of Texas is not going to fix this problem. This is Weatherford's problem. We are Weatherford people. This is how we fix this problem. We pull together as a community. And we do what we have to do to take care of our problems right here in Weatherford.
We have a great task ahead of us. Are we up to the calling that we have all accepted?